So President Donald John Trump is prematurely declaring victory over the Israel and Hamas-Gaza war. And will this actually work? Is the war over? We're going to find all that and more in this video. Along with, I'm going to get into the Russia-Ukraine war, talk about what Trump is doing there and what's going on there as well as maybe possibly go over some other topics too. So I'm excited for this. Like I said, these videos are very, very enjoyable for me to make. So I'm happy to be making them. The last video got not bad amounts of support. So I'm going to continue this for now and see what happens. So the biggest development was on October 13th, last Monday. The 20 remaining Hamas hostages were released back to Israel. They're all at the hospital right now. I think one of them has been discharged, but most of them will require a week or two to get back acclimated. Their eyes have to readjust to the light. Their stomachs have to readjust to getting fed. And some of them have long-term damage that might not be reversible. Guy Gilbo Dalal, one of the hostages that has been held since October 7, 2023, has irreversible hearing loss in one ear. Alon Ohel had shrapnel in his eye, and that has to be removed via surgery. A lot of them have damage, so it's just a very sad situation that, not only they have physical damage, but also so much trauma. But they have been released. They're back in Israel. As far as the deceased hostages, last time we spoke, 4 hostage bodies were released on the first day of the new and improved ceasefire. One of them was Bipin Yoshi, who was thought possibly to be alive. It was one of 2 people whose fate was unknown. His body was quickly returned, leaving questions as to why Hamas never revealed his death or why he was murdered in captivity altogether. He was a Nepali foreign exchange student that wanted to study agriculture. Very sad situation there. And the other 3 bodies that were returned on that first day were Yossi Sharabi, Guy Eloise, and Daniel Peretz. Yossi was the brother of Eli Sharabi, who is one of the most outspoken hostages who tragically lost his wife, daughters, and now brother as well in the October 7th attack. Since then, Hamas has handed over 2 other batches of hostages. One was a batch of 4 that included Tamir Nimrodi, who was one of the other 2 that fate was unaccounted for and no one knew if he was alive or dead. Unfortunately, he was killed in captivity. His body was returned. Again, not sure why Hamas withheld this information if his body was so readily available. The second one that was returned was Uriel Baruch, and the third was Eitan Levy, 2 that were also killed on the October 7th attack. Their body brought back into Gaza. The 4th body that was given over on October 14th was actually that of a Gazan, but apparently Hamas was not playing mind games with Israel, and they actually made a mistake because this person was dressed in an IDF uniform. He previously fought for Israel as a Gazan, which is very interesting. I haven't heard much of that. And he was revealed by Hamas to have been kidnapped, them believing that it was an IDF soldier, but really it was just one of the Gaza militants dressed in an IDF outfit. And then after that day, October 14th, on the 15th, which was Wednesday, 2 additional bodies were released by Hamas back into Israel. One of them being Inbar Hyman, who is the last woman hostage to be kidnapped and murdered by Hamas, finally back to Israel. So there's no remaining women hostages. Heard a story that she was basically trying to help people get home from the Nova Festival that were too intoxicated to get back safely, and she was tragically killed after resisting arrest by Hamas. as an innocent person on October 7th. And the second body was Mohammed al-Atrish, who was tragically killed on October 7th fighting Hamas militants as a Bedouin Muslim. So this just proves that the conflict involves everyone. You know, there's so many different countries in that group of hostages and missing people. There's Nepal, there's Tanzania, there's still a Tanzanian hostage who has been held in Gaza since October 7th. His dead body has been there since then. There is also Muslims, Bedouins, Christians, everything is represented, proving that Hamas is bilaterally attacking the world, not just the Jews. Unfortunately, Hamas has said that the other 19 hostages have not been found and will require serious technology in order to find them. I'm going to pop a picture up right here of the 19 that were remaining. Most of them were killed on October 7th. It seems like the ones that were murdered in captivity were handed over in the past week, which sort of does make sense if you think about it, because on October 7th it was just chaos. If there was a date to when this person was murdered in captivity, or they know exactly where they are, it makes sense they would be returned sooner. Israel and the U.S. both anticipated that some dead bodies of hostages might never come home, but the number was believed to be about 8 or 9 or 10 at the most, not 19. 19 bodies still remain in Gaza unaccounted for. Among those bodies, 2 of them, Omer Nutra and Itai Khan, are American citizens. So I would imagine that Hamas might think withholding American citizens' dead bodies would prove as some sort of negotiating measure in the future, though I don't imagine Israel would be willing to negotiate over dead bodies. That's not something they've been very willing to do in the past. Hadar Golden, kidnapped in 2014 by Hamas as a dead body, is still held in Gaza and is one of the 19 hostages that was not returned. So this is a blatant violation of the ceasefire. They were supposed to give over at least 20 hostages, understanding that some of them might not be found, like Hadar Golden probably will never be found. It's already been 11 years he's been held in Gaza as a dead person. It's very unlikely that he will ever be returned, which is very sad. I can't even imagine, like, these families, they wake up one morning and not only is their relative dead, they're also unable to grieve over their body. It's just a horrible situation. Hamas has also repeatedly refused to disarm, which is the biggest condition on phase 2 of the ceasefire and the lasting deal bringing peace to the Middle East. Trump has repeatedly said that Hamas has told him directly that they are willing to disarm and they will do it very soon. So it really remains to be seen. You know, Trump was able to separate the release of the live hostages with Hamas disarmament and giving up control over the government of Gaza, which was an insanely genius plan. Tying them together is really what held up negotiations for so long in the first place. And in the past, it's always been known that prisoner for prisoner is the best way to negotiate hostage exchanges, and trying to stipulate other bullet points into the plan might prove to be unsuccessful. That's the way they were able to get Gilad Shalit out in 2011 from Gaza. He was being held since 2006 as a living IDF soldier. So he was returned because of a prisoner swap. Prisoner swaps, while very detrimental for Israel because you're releasing thousands of criminals back into Gaza, it's really the only way to get the hostages back, unless you want to make a gamble and try and rescue them, which has proven to provide varying results. So we will have to see. Is Hamas going to disarm And are they going to give up control of Gaza? It's very unlikely, but if it doesn't, I think Israel will launch a full-scale attack on Gaza, and it's obviously going to be really bad because the public seems to always side with the enemy in this case for whatever reason. The other day, Hamas carried out brutal executions in the streets, and just regular random Gazans. They probably, were militants as well, but carrying out public executions in the streets. And I really didn't see much of it on mainstream media, which is just criminal at this point, how they operate. So that's basically the latest on that. One other thing I do want to say is that there has been a bit of an update on the Eli Cohen situation. For those of you guys who don't know, Eli Cohen was a spy that was captured in Syria back in 1965, and his body has still not been returned back to Israel. And it is believed that Syrians do actually know where he is, and he is actually buried in a marked grave. So lately they've been saying they might release his remains back to Israel in order to normalize relations. Everyone is trying to really play nice with Israel right now. It seems to be the right move with Trump backing them so hard. And then of course there's the tragedy of Ron Arad, who was kidnapped almost exactly 29 years ago, I believe. 39 years ago. In 1986, October 16th, 1986, he was kidnapped. His remains have never been found. He was believed to be murdered around 1988, but I don't think he will ever be returned because the Hezbollah units that were in charge back then are no longer. They're completely dismantled. Hezbollah basically has no more power, and Lebanon is a lot safer of a place for it. But unfortunately, Ron Arad was caught in the crossfire and may never be returned back to Israel. Now, moving on from that, I do want to talk a little bit about the Russia-Ukraine situation. That Trump has been putting some pressure in the last 2 days on the situation, trying to resolve it. Now with Putin congratulating him on his big achievements in the Middle East, he does believe that peace might be in the cards. Trump does, that is. And this seems to be his tactic with foreign affairs, to essentially guide it in a direction where he puts so much pressure on both sides that they almost have to deal with him and answer to him more so than each other. He cites a horrible relationship between Vladimir Putin and Vladimir Zelensky as the main reason why the war hasn't ended. The war at its core is basically a territorial dispute. There are 4 territories that Russia wants to be recognized as Russian sovereign territories, and Ukraine refuses to give them up for obvious reasons. The attack was, in essence, a way to capture these territories, and there is no possible way that they would give them up while they are winning the war. It just doesn't make any sense. I completely understand. So it remains unseen how this conflict will end, if it'll end. It's actually been going on for a really long time. I believe it started on February 24th, 2022, and it's been, way more than 3 years at this point, almost 4 years. It's gone on way longer than the Israel-Gaza war, which honestly, as Trump said, I'm kind of surprised that they were able to release the hostages before the Russia-Ukraine war was ended. Very interesting stuff right there. So basically what Trump is doing right now is he's threatening to send missiles to Ukraine as, not send them as an attack, but send them in order for Ukraine to defend themselves with Tomahawk missiles, which are very powerful missiles that can destroy parts of Russia. And he's also, in a way, incentivizing Putin to end the war by saying that they will resume normal trade relations between the U.S. and Russia if the war is ended. So he's doing the carrot and the stick approach, where he's providing both a carrot and a stick and offering a choice as to which direction both Vladimirs want to go into. Obviously, Vladimir is a very common name over in that region, but they are funnily both named Vladimir. So he's supposed to meet with Putin in Budapest, Hungary in the coming weeks. Like I said, he says that the horrible relationship between the two is causing a lot of problems. So if he is able to act as a mediator of sorts for this conflict, then I think it will do wonders for him overall. With all that being said, that is the current situation with the Israel-Gaza war and the Russia-Ukraine war. Trump also notably just lowered the cost of IVFs, which is a way to fertilize an egg outside of the body, which I think unilaterally is just a good move. I don't see why prices should be high on that as far as insurance goes. He also has been, putting some pressure on the pharmaceutical companies in the U.S. to be more truthful with their results, which is something that we have been lacking big time. Pharmaceutical companies have way too much power and control over the U.S. economy and are able to do basically whatever they want, lie, cheat, steal, and never be caught. He is trying to push for an end to that and more transparency overall. He also just honored Charlie Kirk on Tuesday, October 14th, with the highest civilian honor that a civilian can get. I definitely should have made a video on the Charlie Kirk situation when it was more current, about a little over a month ago at this point. He was tragically killed. That was definitely the worst thing to happen this year so far. That was absolutely horrible. I was in shock. I mean, I just couldn't believe it. To take away one of the most prominent thought leaders of our time so soon. He was about to turn 32. October 14th was his birthday. That's why the ceremony was held that day. Erica attended as well. And yeah, it's just absolutely atrocious. It's horrible. And there's nothing we could do to bring him back. Political violence in this country has been such a problem lately that I don't know, what do you do in these situations? I guess you try and pursue justice as much as you can. I've been looking into all sorts of theories about why Charlie Kirk was murdered. If you guys want me to go into all that, make sure to, drop it down below. I don't want to go too off record just yet. I want to stay, neutral and just give you the facts for now, which is that Charlie Kirk was killed by a deranged leftist named Tyler Robinson. If there were other parties involved, the truth probably will never be revealed. In these situations, it's very hard to find the truth. For some reason, it's always shrouded in mystery. And I am someone who likes to critically think about everything, and I'm basically willing to look into any single theory. So if you guys have any, leave them down below. Who killed Charlie Kirk? But yeah, well, being said, I'm going to end it off right here. Thanks for watching. Take care. More coming. I'll see y'all soon. Peace.